Hello, Chasing Jesus. I really wish you weren't so mean. You made me cry. Alright, so you didn't make me cry. You made me laugh. I'm a little bit angry, but mostly you just made me laugh. I can't believe that people are still attempting to spout the same puerile nonsense, thinking that somehow it will get different results this time than when the thousands of apologists before them spouted it. These arguments for God have been made for thousands of years. And there have always been those who refuse to believe just because they were told to believe. Those who wanted to think for themselves and apply some logic to the universe. To attempt to gain some understanding and some control over the universe by understanding it. Anyway, the particular part of your refutation that I want to take issue with is the complexity of God. Now, you want to say that God is simple. You say that God is simple because God has no physical form. Therefore, God is not complex because God does not have parts, because God is not physical. And yet, you also ascribe to God as having always been there. There was never a time without God. No beginning, no end. On a side note, why should God be exempted from beginnings and ends when absolutely nothing else that we have observed in the universe fails to have a beginning or an end? Oh wait, I know why we must exempt it. Because if we don't exempt God from the same rules that everything else in the universe follows, well, God falls apart, becomes susceptible to science, becomes susceptible to the atheist arguments against it. So, he's always existed, he's simple, because he has to be. If he isn't, then the atheists are right. That's really the only reason that you have for declaring the simplicity of God. But let's look instead at the complexity of God. Why would God have to be complex? Well, let's see here. What does God have to do in order to be God? Well, he needs to be able to think. He needs to be able to have emotions. He needs to be able to apply logic and reason. He needs to be able to cause the entire universe to come into existence. He then needs to be able to toy with the universe after it has come into existence. He needs to be able to cause massive changes in the way that the earth operates, from floods to anything else that is mentioned. He needs to be able to send a part of himself with physical form to the planet to save us. Well, there goes part of your non-physical issue. We've just given physical form to part of God so that he can become Jesus. There goes your lack of parts, because only part of him becomes Jesus, because there's still part of him to talk to, because Jesus has talks in the Bible with the Father and the Holy Ghost. So, okay, he's got parts, he's got to be able to do all these things. He's starting to seem pretty complex. I mean, what part of this is simple? I don't see your simplicity. So we've got two parts to this. One, God is simple. I think that logically, God can't be simple. There's just no way. God cannot be simple. Not and accomplish what God is described to have accomplished. So he either is the God of the Bible and is complex, or he is not the God of the Bible and therefore maybe could be more simple. But you're a Christian and you basically believe in the Bible, so let's talk about the God of the Bible. This guy's complex. And complex things, using your own argument, need a creator. Who created God? God's the creator of everything else complex. What created this complexity? I know this was the argument you were trying to refute, but I think you failed to refute it. You failed miserably at refuting Richard Dawkins' Ultimate 747 argument. You basically just spouted the same things that apologists throughout history have spouted, and they have all failed to refute Dawkins' Ultimate 747 argument. So, anyway, I can't get my head around how people like you can really say this and believe it. Now, I know that there are more of you than there are of me. There are a lot more of you than there are of me. That doesn't make what you have to say true. Neither does just positing that God must be simple make it true. Neither does positing that God has no beginning and no end make it true. You posit that God is simple because if God is complex, your argument is refuted. You have no evidence to say he's simple. You posit that God has no beginning and no end because if God has a beginning and an end, then your arguments are refuted. Therefore, he must have no beginning and no end. That doesn't make it true. Again, you have supplied no evidence, no reason remotely worthy of being called a reason to believe what you believe.